Yo, 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 Nothing's Normal podcast. It's your host, Spittinks, back at you with another episode. It's Wednesday. Excuse me, it's Thursday. We were just in here Monday. Before we start today's episode, let's do our shout-outs. First of all, this episode is brought to you by Green Leaf, where we are right now. If you want to shoot a podcast, shoot a movie, you can come in here and shoot the breeze for the right price. Contact us at Green Leaf Mutli Media. We're located at Union Studios. Shout out to Polymath. Shout out to my cousin for this hoodie. It's just work. I feel like we might name this episode "It's Just Work." I like that. That's just what it is. But with that being said, enough about us. Let's get more into our guests. Who I got sitting to the left, man?
What's up, Spank? Jimmy over here.
Jimmy.
Yonkers, New York. Born and raised. It's good to be here.
That's good. It's good to have you. Can I shake your hand?
Of course you can, brother.
My boy. Jimmy. So over here at Nothing's Normal, for the sake of our viewers, we just have one small policy. We don't usually, we never like to start our stories on page 50. We like to start the story in the beginning to give our viewers a better understanding of the who, what, when, how, which leads up to your why today. So, I feel like, enough about me. But with that being said, you just told us you're from Yonkers, New York. Yonkers, big city. Where exactly in Yonkers are you from, if you don't mind me asking?
I grew up right over by Lincoln High School.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the demographic over there? Yonkers, a lot of my friends who I know who are big, strong white guys are from like the McLean area. It gets so demographically, where exactly is Lincoln for those who don't know?
I'd say Lincoln's about half a mile from McLean Avenue, and I grew up hanging out all over there. Lincoln High School is known for their concrete bleachers. I spent days running those bleachers, man, running that Lincoln Hill, and a lot of good people over there. And like Yonkers, man, you get your fair share of fruits, nuts, and vegetables everywhere you go.
Absolutely.
All different sorts of people, and 27 square miles, man.
Yeah.
It's a big area.
It's a big city. You
It's
guys
a
got
lot
like
of
50
people.
schools. Like, it's nothing like where I'm from. It's one of everything,
Oh, man, 5 high schools, 6 high schools, ton of middle schools, a lot of people from there.
Okay. What was the household looking like for Jimmy? I like to get into the house dynamic because I know for a lot of us, some of our issues, problems, and traumas, or even blessings start in the home. Everything kind of starts at home. So how was the household looking like for you? Both parents, single parent?
When Alex asked me to do this, and the name of the podcast was Nothing Normal Podcast, I was like, all right, perfect. I fit right in.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nothing normal about this shit. And, I grew up good, man. My father was a hard-working man, born and raised in Yonkers. My mother, born and raised in Yonkers, neighborhood sweethearts. And, they had rough upbringings. My father probably wasn't supposed to make it past the age of 25.
Wow.
And, my mother had a real rough upbringing, and, they were childhood sweethearts. They knew they were in love the first time they had a fist fight.
That's amazing. Wow. A little Ike and Tito over there.
They were tough people, man. They were tough people, but they had hearts the size of the Empire State Building. They would do anything for anybody.
Absolutely.
And, my father had me when he was 35. My mother was 30. And I grew up on, I was born in 541 Bronx River Road.
Okay.
And then eventually moved over to that Lincoln area. And, Dad worked hard, man. He was on the DPW sanitation for Yonkers and eventually graduated and started, he became a firefighter for Mount Vernon Firemen.
Oh, wow.
And my mother was a stay-at-home mother. She took care of us while Dad worked. And, he coached the Little League teams. He was a decorated Mount Vernon fireman.
He's a champion.
Did a lot of time down at 9/11 when it first happened. He helped a lot of people out, man. And we grew up emulating this man. He was just a mountain of a man. He was a hero. And,
Wow.
like any story, everyone's got their trials and tribulations, He was sober a very long time, and I watched him help a lot of people. And right around the time I was 14 years old, I saw him pick up a drink for the first time. And, that's like kind of where we got introduced to this chaos as kids.
Right.
We were children. We didn't really know what was going on.
So you have siblings?
Yeah, I got 2 younger brothers, man, John and Joe.
You're the oldest. Wow.
I'm the oldest. Me and my brother John, 18 months apart. Joe's about 4.5, 5 years younger than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, we grew up, we played sports, we got in trouble. We fucked around, everything that kids do.
Did you want a sister?
No.
No?
No, I didn't want no sisters. You know, my whole father's side of the family is like maybe like 20 males and like one girl. I don't know what it is with these genes, you know. We just breed men.
This is amazing to hear. This is the first time in a while I've heard a testimony about a father in a long time. We interview a lot of different people, and a lot of us have similar stories when it comes to the father. So to hear, you know, you describe him, and I can feel the passion in your voice, and I can almost feel your soul when you speak about him. You were speaking almost past tense. Is your father still around?
He's not. This June 26th.
Shit.
Be 15 years he's gone.
That's his mom's birthday. Wow.
Yeah. June 26, 2010, he passed away. I was 15 years old. My brother John was 13. My brother Joe was 10. Fuck. And it was fucking traumatic, honestly. You know what? You know, I grew up cursing God, man. What kind of God takes their father away from their kids? You know.
Yeah.
And you know, I was telling my wife about this. You know, this year I turned 30, and I'm approaching a point in my life where I'm now alive longer without him than I am with him.
Wow.
You know, and it's hard.
That's deep.
It's hard, you know, it's hard because I know if he was around today, like my father was a tough man.
Yeah.
He was a no nonsense, no fuck around guy. You know, he was a leader, and you know, you could ask anyone in Yonkers, man. He could have ran for mayor, he would have got it, and everybody loved him, respected him. But he was a no fuck around man, and you know, he started. We got, you know, people got demons, you know, and sometimes they don't come to surface, and sometimes they stay in the household. And you know, my family suffered from alcoholism and drug addiction, man. It's just that's the cards we were dealt over here. And he was sober for a very long time, and you know, he slipped up, and it eventually cost him his life. He didn't directly overdose. He didn't die from cirrhosis or any of that shit. He didn't, you know, get murdered or anything. It was a boating accident. He was you know, under the influence, and he was on a boat in the New Rochelle Sound, Long Island Sound over there, and he jumped in the water, and he didn't resurface for about 8 days. They found him floating on July 4th, 2010. And that's kind of like where, I guess you could say, like the beginning of the darkness for me.
Yeah.
You know, like just heading down a path where I just didn't give a fuck no more.
I can imagine.
I didn't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
Lived, died, got in trouble, blew opportunities. I didn't give a fuck. I felt like I had nothing to lose back then. I put a lot of blame on myself, actually. Tried a lot to, you know, to help him. And when he passed away, I thought there was always I could have done more at the time. You know?
It's crazy. 1, 2, 3, it's 4 of us in here, and all our dads are deceased. That's deep. And I can't say that I feel. I was 5 when my dad died from drugs, now that I'm older. And I nowhere near feel anywhere how you feel. I didn't get a chance to build, you know, with that. So that, wow, 15 years old.
15 years old. I just finished my freshman year. And you know, I saw, it wasn't like I was like behind the scenes of it. Like I was on the front lines with it. You know, like I saw the cops getting called. I saw the fights. I saw the tragedies, you know, and him and my mom were separated at the time, but like I was on the front lines with it. I tried a lot to, you know, help get him sober, and
absolutely,
you know, it was rough. It was definitely rough. And you know, like you just said, like there's a couple of us in here with our fathers, you know, and it's amazing how like at the time you could curse God, and you could say like, why me? What the fuck is this for?
Man. Come on.
You know, but when you could look from the outside in, and it's been 15 years, I'm not going to say he died for a reason, but what I will say is that trials and tribulations build character.
Absolutely.
You know, and you could go one of two ways with this. You could play victim, curse the world, bring yourself down, bring your family down, blame everyone for bullshit that's out of your control. Or you could rise above the problems, try and better your life, help the next person out that's dealing with something similar, and try and like lead by example here. You know, like you know this, life ain't fucking fair.
Life sucks sometimes.
Life ain't fair. It sucks sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
But it ain't gonna stop for nobody.
Nobody.
It ain't stopping.
Wow. I just want to ask you 2 things. Did you feel like, and then we can, move along. When he did pass, you being the oldest boy, did you feel like the weight was on you to guide your two younger siblings, or it was more so I'm healing myself. I can't step up and fill those shoes?
I didn't know what it was like to lead back then. I was too caught up in the grief. I was too caught up in rage.
15, man.
I was too caught up in blame.
Yeah.
And in a victim mentality. And I self-medicated, man. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like I just graduated to an opiate addiction right after Dad died. Like, it was a progressive disease for me. You know what I mean? Like, I started out drinking in the park, smoking a little bit of weed, and it was fun back then.
At that age,
yeah,
15?
Yeah, it was fun back then. Like, I heard someone say one time, like, for people that suffer from drug addiction and alcoholism, like, in the beginning, drinking and drugging was magic. And then it was maintenance, and then in the end, it was nothing but fucking misery.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what my late teens, early 20 was like. It's a different, it's a different generation nowadays. It ain't like the crack era where you could slowly piss your life away over 25 years of drinking and smoking crack, you know, and slowly deteriorate. It was like I was drinking and smoking weed in the park, and I blinked my eyes, and I had a pill habit.
Yeah.
You know, it just happened like over fucking night. And, I made good business acquisitions back then. You know what I mean? Pills were too expensive, so I graduated to heroin. I did what any smart businessman would do.
Yeah.
And hell disguised as heaven.
Absolutely.
Nearly almost cost me my life multiple times.
Yeah.
You know?
I can identify with that. Same thing. The pills. It's all the same shit. A person could say, oh, I never did heroin. I never did pill. I never did this. I mean, I never did heroin, but I did pills. It's all the same shit. All the same feeling, same high, same side effects. It has the same effect on your mind. I know for me, it was a lot on the mental. When I wasn't on that shit, like when you go through it, the cramps, you can't sleep, you can't. It's a rough ride, and I'm glad guys like you and myself are open to speak on these things, because people will see you now, and of course we're gonna travel along your story and see where you've made it and how far you've come. But people will look at you now and they probably wouldn't even believe, because you aged well, man.
Yeah, man, my wife never seen me drink or get high, and she's heard the stories, and it's so hard for her to picture what drunk and high Jimmy would look like. Let me tell you something. I was a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
I was an absolute disaster, and I got no shame in saying that.
You shouldn't, because
I love who I am today.
You better.
And everything that got me to this point, sitting here with you, Spank.
Absolutely.
Everything that I've been through was a lesson, trials and tribulations to learn and overcome obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I love my life today.
Yeah.
I got no shame in my past, honestly. Do I promote it? No, I don't.
Right.
Am I ashamed to speak on it? Not at all.
Yeah, it happened.
Because if this helps one person, then it makes a fucking difference here.
Absolutely.
I can't pretend like that side of me never existed. It's phony. It's a hypocrite.
Absolutely.
I can't identify with that.
Your growth that's the blessing in itself, the growth from where you came from, whether it was self-inflicted or not.
How could you appreciate the joys if it weren't for the pains?
I just watched a coach. I'm big on, I'm a boxing fan. Mark Ferrate, if I'm saying his name correct, he trains Edgar Berlanga, and he said, it's the process that you appreciate. Once you get to the goal or obtain the goal, it's the process that really shapes and forms your character. It's the process that makes it all worth it at the end.
Like anything in life, you got to embrace the come up, embrace the journey. If I get so carried away, like I'm an ambitious person.
Yeah.
I get caught up in the goal, in the destination. I'm gonna hit the destination, and I'm gonna want something more.
Absolutely.
And then I forget about what it took and the success to get here. I'm all about shooting for the stars,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a real big believer in milestones.
Yeah.
Short-term goals. Because if I'm so focused on getting up here, like I'm not gonna be appreciative and happy when I hit this.
Absolutely.
And you gotta embrace the come up in life. Sometimes I did well when my back was up against the wall.
Absolutely.
When I had the fire under my ass. Like I did well. There was only one way to go.
You need that. You need that.
Success can breed complacency.
It can weaken you sometimes. Absolutely.
You got to stay hungry for everything in life.
You'll
so
get soft.
Embrace the come up, man. Embrace the journey. And listen, like I always try and state this too. Like this conversation here, it's not limited to just drug addiction or alcoholism. It could be anything someone's dealing with in life.
Whatever
it could be
is.
mental illness. It could be breakups. It could be job changes. It could be the world fucking pandemic. you know, it's not limited to just one trial and tribulation here.
Mm-hmm. Use the same techniques to get through pretty much every adversity.
Absolutely.
You know?
You know, and you got to embrace the come up in life, man.
Yeah.
You get one shot at this.
Mm-hmm.
People act like there's a fucking do-over button at the end of this.
Listen, once you're gone, you're gone. They might mourn
And
you
you know
for
how
about 30
fast
days.
life goes.
Yeah, it's hard the way life is set up. You can't get caught up in grief.
No.
Because life is constantly evolving and changing and this and that. It's too many things to learn to be stuck in one mindset.
You got to learn to adapt.
Absolutely. Lastly, before we move forward, I want you to give me one thing you learned from your father verbally, something that he taught you, and then something that you learned just watching him.
It's a good question. One thing, he taught me two things when I was a kid that I still remember to this day. Number one was never panic. No matter how bad.
Hey, what I always tell you.
No matter how bad a situation is, never panic.
Mm-hmm.
3 deep breaths bring you back to reality. And then another thing he told me was, Jim, you get more bees in life with honey. I live by that today.
Break that down for us.
People want to be friends with a guy that does well in regards to not financials, not profit motive, but a guy that wants to help other people out. Mm-hmm. You know, you can, you know, like I fight now and like I could be a cocky, arrogant prick that's unapproachable, mm-hmm. or I could be the humble guy that tries to help others out, do good for my family, mm-hmm. lead by example.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people, everybody that knows me know that, like, what you see is what you get. Like, I'm not a fucking hypocrite here. Like, this isn't a front. This is who I am.
I can smell it.
You know, and you get more bees in life with honey. You do good, and good happens.
Absolutely.
And he was telling me that when I was 7 or 8 years old, man.
But that's important. You start that young.
Absolutely.
I don't believe in certain things that age appropriate, but when it comes to those mental seeds, you plant those early.
One more. Always remain teachable. Mm-hmm. Always remain teachable. No matter how far in life you get, always be a student. And
wow, he taught you all these things.
All of those things. I mean, even as simple as fucking making a layup in DYA basketball.
Yeah.
You know, remain teachable.
And there was something that you learned just watching him. Maybe something he never even told you. Something just watching his movements. I know, like, now that I am a father, I have a better understanding of what a father does. You know, fathers can be heroes and should be heroes. I know he watches everything.
One thing I learned from just watching this man is sometimes you don't need words to speak volumes. That man could walk into a fucking room and you knew what was up. And it's about reading energy.
Energy. Hello.
It's about reading energy. Sometimes a smile or just no speech at all is a lot louder than the words.
100%.
You know?
We're slaves to reactions and being able to understand. So when you don't say anything, you leave room for speculation.
You know, not everything needs to be said at this moment. Not everything needs to be said by me. You know, and patience. Yeah. Patience, you know. Not every action deserves a reaction.
100%.
You know?
Energy is priceless, giving it out.
Well, that gets you caught up.
Yeah.
How many times, if you would have acted on your emotions, would have been put in cuffs or something like that?
100%. I've been in cuffs. I've been there.
You know? But if I would have took that second to pause, does it need to be done now? Does it need to be done by me? You know? Learning how to pause and read situations can save me a lot of money.
Yeah.
It can save me a lot of time. It can save me a lot of, you know, like an expectation is a resentment, like waiting to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So if I evaluate a situation, you know, it allows me time to process things. Like feelings aren't facts. You know, how I feel right now in this moment, I might not feel the same about in about 20 minutes or an hour or tomorrow
Absolutely.
or the next week, you know?
Yeah. And we can't always rationalize feelings.
No.
We can't control that. And that's what scares, as men, we're so scared. We like control. I cannot control how I feel when I wake up in the morning.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would say, hey, my whole life would be completely different if I would have stopped and thought for a minute.
I'm pretty sure
know?
billions of people feel
Millions.
that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Rest in peace to your father. Yeah, he sounds like a true champion, man. I could only wish that to have something like that, someone like that in my life, you know. But if you could remember when you were a child coming up, what was the first thing, if you can remember, what you wanted to be as a child?
I wanted to be like him. But really, what I wanted to do was be in the NBA, but I don't think they're drafting 5'11" white kids that are...
Can you shoot?
Not anymore, man. I haven't picked up a basketball in a few years.
So that was your thing coming up?
I liked it. I was competitive, but the game was fast. I liked football. I was a really good receiver in high school.
Okay.
What
high school?
I went to Fordham.
Ooh.
I went to Fordham. I did. My father got me. Well, I took the test. I got in as a freshman, 8th grade, going in there. And then after he passed away, they looked after me when I was in there, and they took care of it because there was no way we would have been able to afford it with him gone. And they took care of us. And I kind of beat myself up a little bit. I didn't really do much with it. I started smoking weed, sophomore year of high school. Yeah. I mean, I could have done a lot of things with my life, man. I had, my senior year of football, I had 77 receptions for 1,045 yards. Like, I was a good ball player. Yeah. And even wrestling, like I did my wrestling freshman year, I did wrestling sophomore year, and who the hell wants to go to practice? I'd rather smoke pot after school.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that adult influence to say, yo, kid, like, have you reached out to any schools? Like, I thought, if you're good enough, they'll come to you. But that's not how life works. You got to put yourself out there.
Absolutely.
And I didn't have anybody, there to smack me in the head like, well, what are you doing?
That's what
you're wasting your time here. You're wasting your talents. And I didn't really have that, so I kind of had to learn on my own. And that's kind of like the moral of my childhood, like getting my fucking ass burned.
Yeah.
But like not enough to cost me my life, which it almost did.
Yeah.
And learning from those mistakes. I don't know, maybe if he was here, or someone else was here, I would have saved myself a lot of, pain. But, on the flip side, I might not know what I know today if I didn't go through those things.
Yeah. I'm finding it, like I said, now that I am a dad, it's hard to teach without experience. Just telling them this, that, and the third. If you go this way, this can happen. If you go, it doesn't usually work well like that.
Experience is the best teacher.
100%.
And the lessons we learn in life are what we use to either help another person that are going through something similar, or to pass it down to our children, or to help another family member out, or a person you meet along the way of life. I mean, if it wasn't for lessons, how the fuck would you learn?
Absolutely. How would you learn solutions if you don't have problems?
That's right.
Yeah. Did you pursue college at all after high school?
I did a year.
Okay.
I did a year at a school in Connecticut. I did really well my first semester. I had a 3.7, and then my second semester I had a 1.9. And like, I don't know, man. I was getting so jammed up back then. I didn't even know what fucking day of the week it was.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, after that first year, I went back for like my sophomore year, 5 days. And, I got into an altercation up there, and it was going to really escalate seriously. And it's funny, too, because I was so fucked up that, like, my mother said, like, for, like, 5 days in a row, hey, did you hand your tuition check in yet? Did you hand your tuition check in yet? And I was so busy, like, drinking and partying, like, I just never got to it.
Yeah.
So, like, 5 days into my sophomore year, I was like, Ma, you got to come pick me up. Like, I got to get out of here. I got to leave.
Well, I'm pretty sure she was shocked, because I'm like I just said, the man's role is, the woman will be more so, I gave him the check, and they think it's done after that. The man is going to follow you through the trail to wherever you're at and make sure that you
My sophomore year, it was like I room and boarded there for like a hotel for 5 days,
Absolutely.
and I bounced with the check. I never handed it in. And I've never been back since, man. I tell you, things work out the way they're supposed to. She didn't want me going back my sophomore year because she already knew what path I was heading down.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because, like, everyone sees it before you see it.
Yeah.
And like I said, these fucking people don't know what they're talking about.
They knew everything.
I got it all under control. I lasted not even 5 days.
Yeah.
And it was time to go, man. I haven't been back there since.
Yeah. So before you get into, like I said, I did my research on you. I checked your page out. We know a lot of mutual people, and anytime anybody's involved in any sort of combat sports, it sets my antennas up, because you don't bump into those type of people often. I know I don't. So prior, when you get out of college and don't go back, did you work at all prior to fighting? What was Jimmy doing?
Jimmy was doing a whole lot of nothing.
Okay.
Listen, like I said, I ain't ashamed to say I had graduated to a full, heroin habit at this point in my life. Like, I had a job. I was the worst fucking employee in the United States of America.
Sure
I couldn't hold no job. I got fired from places. I had no opportunities. Girlfriend left.
Yeah.
No money, no job, no trust. Family didn't want to be a part of me no more. You know, and I will say my mother never gave up on me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I look at my life today. I do my best not to get sentimental here. I look at my life today.
The
And a lot of
yours.
people could say, like, wow, you know, you've done a lot. And I could sit up here and take all the credit myself, and I'd be full of shit.
That's a man.
You know, I look at my life today, and I wouldn't be where I'm at if my mother never gave up on me. That poor woman found me dead 4 different times.
Fuck.
Brought me back. You know, and those were times where she wasn't even supposed to come home. Just had those butterflies. Let me go check on this kid. And, like, I think of myself, like, yo, 18, 19 years old, can't even be left alone by yourself. Like, what kind of fucking young man are you? What type of man are you trying to be in life?
I'm glad you're giving her praise for
She
that.
deserves it.
Yeah,
She deserves
absolutely.
it. She never gave up on me.
Imagine the trauma for her, especially going through what she went through.
How
with,
selfish
you
I
know?
was.
Ooh.
How selfish I was, man.
That's a strong woman.
How selfish I was. She's been through a fucking lot, man. Yeah. She had a real rough childhood. You know, she's had her, you know, battles in life.
Yeah.
And, you know, she lost her sister, leukemia. Then she lost my father. She almost lost her son, man. And she told me, right around my anniversary for sobriety, she's like, you know, Jim, you know, I remember screaming at your lifeless body, screaming at your father, saying, don't take this kid away from me. You can't take this kid away from me. And, like, Narcan wasn't working. Second hit of Narcan wasn't working. You can't take this kid away from me. My father's name was Jim. Jimmy, you can't take him away from me. And the third hit of Narcan works. I mean, listen, we're not going to start getting, you know, teary-eyed here. This is just life, and this is my life. And, you know, it would be very selfish of me to not give her the praise she deserves, because she never gave up on me. And
I'm thinking,
you know,
so
I
deep right now.
owe it. I owe it to her to give her that credit, man. And
Could you imagine, like in hindsight, when you think about it, 2 parents, 1 kid in the middle, like you said, they were separated. He wants his son, she wants his son. That's deep.
Yeah.
So when she says,
Trying
Jimmy,
to pull me over the white
Jimmy,
line.
you can't take him from me. She, wow.
Trying to pull me over the white line. And listen, there's a way things play out the way they do.
Yeah.
And
God is real.
You know, listen, like you said, what were you up to? I was up to a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
It comes down to a point where
Yeah.
I hit where I was like, you know, I'm so tired of sitting on the sidelines of fucking life that it was time to get into the game of life and start doing something with yourself. Because, like, I was never afraid of dying, honestly. Like, I wasn't. I OD'd 8 times, you know. Wake up. Dying was easy. You just woke up. What happened? You know, you OD'd
Were you ever
again.
upset about waking up?
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? Like, I didn't know why I was upset. Yeah, it would be easier to die, but, like, I had nothing to lose back then.
Yeah.
You know, so when you woke up, it was like, fuck, I got to keep this going. And then towards the end, like, seeing what I was doing, it was, you know, the ODs never got me, the DWI never got me, the bad drug deals never got me. It was the look of disappointment in everybody's face when they looked at me, saying, like, you know, shaking your head, like, this kid's not even worth words anymore. And, like, I remember getting called a junkie in front of people's friends and, like, you know, having nowhere to go. My phone never fucking rang. I had no friends back then. Who the hell wanted to hang out with me?
Yeah.
You know, and, like, that's where the fight career started. Like, that's how low my life was.
Yeah.
And, like, how did you get involved in fighting?
That's my next question.
How'd you get involved in fighting? Jim? Well, I had no friends back then. And I'm sure, like, you follow, you know, your neighborhood guy. Like, you knew about the BX Fight Club.
100%.
Everyone knew about the BX Fight Club.
Yeah.
And I remember going down there and, like, scrapping for the first time.
Oh, shit.
I fucking was wearing sweatpants and long sleeve shirts fighting because I'm going through withdrawals at the
No
time.
training at all? You
Hell no.
Just went,
No.
wow.
No.
Just something to do.
Just a scrappy kid growing up, something to do, needed money.
Yeah.
Never got paid. Not that they said they were going to pay me, but I told people I was getting paid because I needed some sort of justification for why I'm going down to fight in Hunts Point.
Yeah.
You know, and when they put, like, a knockout highlight on Instagram, like, they got 16,000 followers, and in 2014, like, that was a lot back
That was
then.
2014. That was a while ago.
You know, it was like, you know, all these people just kept coming out of the woodworks. Oh, yo, I know Jim. I went to school with Jim. Yo, Jim's in my neighborhood. Yo, way to go. And, like, I put on this front, like, yeah, man, doing my thing. Like,
Yeah.
dude, it was a cry for help, bro. Like, that's how low I was. Like, I had to hurt people
Shit.
for some sort of human connection.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and the thing is like, it was an inside job the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, I was so, like, the needed for, like, human connection, like, to have friends, to talk to people was so important to me. Yeah, and it was so foreign to me that I put this front on. But, it was an inside job. You know what I mean? Like, I hated myself.
Yeah.
You know, and, like, I was starving for human connection. But, like, I got it. I got the attention. But it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
You know, like, that void can never get filled. You know, and, like, you see that today. Like, people think money is the, you know, key to their happiness. Glory is the key to their happiness. And we chase things like money, gambling, ego, glory, all these things that we think are what we really want. Shopping, materials. Like, if I only had that, it'll make me happy. You know, and along this journey of life, man, I found out that the only thing that made me happy was my relationships with my family, peace of mind, sense of purpose, undeniable work ethic, trying to do the next right thing for the next right person. Like, those things brought true happiness to me.
Absolutely.
And that was so foreign to me back then. I thought what I needed was friends. I thought what I needed was attention. And that's kind of how, like, the career got started. Like, there was no
Went to
training.
Bronx Fight Club on a random Friday.
Getting high. Getting high, going down there fighting on heroin.
You're knocking these dudes out doped up.
Doped up.
That says a lot.
Copping on Westchester Avenue saying, yo, you got to hurry up. I got to fight in an hour.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
You know, one of my last fights down there, it was like, they called it a tie. It was not a tie. I was so whacked out. I got dropped. And, like, me and this kid just went to war, you know what I mean? And, like, I'd say, like, 9 months earlier, like, I put this kid on a stretcher. Like, I fucked him up, like, bad.
At the same event,
Same event. It was in March when I fought this kid. I hit him with a 3-piece combo and fucking put him into almost like an epileptic seizure.
And of course, you got to
ring.
sign waivers and things like that.
There's no
right?
signing shit.
No.
There.
Oh shit. So
there was no signing shit there.
Bronx Fight Class, like the next
there was
thing
no signing shit there.
Pit Bulls.
So this kid got knocked out. He trained for 6 months. I got high for 6 months. I'm on Westchester Avenue. I'm copping dope, and I'm,
go to the Bronx and
I got an event. I got a fight. You know, in an hour, and I'd get my shit. And when we rematched each other 6 months later, man, he came in ready, and it showed, man. I got dropped, and we went to war. I stopped him at one point. We did an extra round. I couldn't even breathe. I couldn't even pick my eyes up. They called it a tie. I got no problem saying I lost. It was Underground Fight Club. I'm high on heroin. Like, yeah, it wasn't my best version. But after that, I went on a suicide mission, you know? I was on a suicide mission after that. I don't know. My ego was so, you know. Imagine that.
I'm knocking guys out high as fuck.
Yeah, full-blown heroin addict. I got an ego, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, I got no desire to keep doing this. I look like a fool. I got dropped on Instagram. Everyone sees it. I'm nothing now. And how distorted my thinking was. Like, I got nothing to live for no more. This was everything. And, like, in reality, it was fucking nothing.
It was, it
was absolutely nothing. There was no substance to this.
None.
Everything was a front.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just kind of chased the drugs to the brinks of death, man. And I don't know. It was in October. I woke up that day. I was like, I can't do this no more.
Wow.
You know?
What got you back? What fueled that spark to take fighting serious? Because at some point, you do find a gym, you find a home, you get your pro card, you full on. First of all, before we get into that, what combat sport are you in?
I'm in mixed martial arts.
Okay, so yeah.
I'm in the mixed martial arts business.
Yeah, big business. Where was your first station at, as far as, what was your first home, I would say, as a martial artist?
Animals, Yonkers, New York.
How did they find you?
Born and raised, man. I had a friend that brought me into the gym. He saw that I was fighting down there in Hunts Point, and he said, hey, why don't you try this gym over here? And he introduced me to Sam and Margie, who's the owner of Animals MMA.
I got him on Facebook, yeah.
Let me tell you something. If there was more Sam and Margies in the world would be a better place.
I feel like we just need more gyms, more coaches. Those are some of the, especially for us who with no fathers, like you find a lot of good motivation and wisdom in these gyms.
Very selfless person. He knew I had nothing going on. He let me train at the gym. And, you know, I wasn't done fucking up, you know. And like I said, in that October, I woke up. I was like, I can't do this no more. Tears running down my face. I'm in the shower in a fetal position. I'm just like, yo, I can't do this no more. And I went away to a rehab that time. And I've been away to rehabs before, but this time it was different. Like I told you, like the fire under your ass. Like,
you got a purpose now.
I can't do this no more.
Yeah.
And, that was it, man. That's where my life took off. I did my 30 days of rehab out there. I kept in touch with Sammy. And, you know, I stayed out in Jersey. That's where I was living at the time. I had to get out of New York completely.
Absolutely.
I had to completely remove myself from this, you know, jungle.
Yeah.
And Sammy calls me up. He's like, hey, Jimmy, listen, you got nothing to lose. You said you've been training out there. And I was just training myself, man. That's how I started out, watching McGregor and TJ Dillashaw videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, and just like shadow boxing them and doing some sprints here and there. And Sam says, hey, why don't you take a kickboxing fight in 2 weeks? The hell you got to lose?
Fuck it.
Fuck it, right? So I took the fight, and I won. I did well, and it was at that point I knew I was ready to come back home. And this was about 6 months out there now.
You got something that, from the feel that I get, that you can't teach that. You can't train. You can teach toughness. You can teach. You can't teach that fighter spirit. You just can't.
You know what it is? It's like, you ever see like people that are just indestructible? Not that I'm one of them, but like you can't kill that guy, right? You can't kill that guy. Well, it's not that you can't kill him. It's just some people refuse to die.
100%.
You know what I mean? And
you tried.
I tried, man. I you know.
When you try to die and fail, that's you got a special purpose.
Can't even kill yourself correctly.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I just had this fire under my ass. I really wanted to pursue this. Like, hey, if I could do this all doped up, I wonder how I would do if I was putting 150% into this. And that's where this career kind of took off. And I went right back to animals. I stayed sober ever since. I mean, that's 9.5 years ago. And I moved back to Yonkers, man. I pursued this career. Around like 10 months sober, I got into Local 40 Iron Workers, which is, in my opinion, the best career ever. It's the strongest workforce of union labor of men and women in the entire globe.
I'm a 456 Teamster.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
What's
you know,
what you guys?
Local 40.
What do you got? Where do you guys rank above or under us? CSCA.
Local 40 is always going to be number one.
Local 40.
Okay.
So maybe I need to go to the transfer.
You know,
to Local
listen,
40.
it's a chaotic business.
Yeah.
You know, it's a dangerous business, and that's kind of why I fell in love with it. You know, and I didn't when I first got in, I didn't even know what an iron worker was. You know,
I don't right now.
You know, you ever see the guys sitting on the beams having lunch?
Oh no,
That's
sir.
Local 40. You know, we build steel buildings. We, you know, structural iron.
That's a fight in itself, man. So fighting guys is easy. You're up 2,000 feet in the air.
Connecting iron. You know, some guys bolting up, raising gang, dealing with cranes. You know, you stare death in the face every fucking day. And let me tell you something. I couldn't get enough of it. So when people were like, "Yo, you know, how do you do that job?" And it's like, not like a watch me do this type of thing. It's like, well, you know, I'm gonna do this while pursuing a fighting career. And you know, I speak to some people now. They're like, you know, how did you do it throughout the years of apprenticeship school and working and pursuing a fighting career? And it's not about. You can't give someone an answer like, "How did I do this?"
Yeah.
The real question is how bad do you want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Because anything in life is possible.
Right.
But no one ever said it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
And my goal in the beginning, I wanted one pro fight. That was it. I just wanted to say that I went from a heroin addict to a professional athlete so that people suffering from addiction, alcoholism, mental illness, whatever the case their demon may be, is that, hey, if that kid could go from fucking socks low in life to a professional athlete, maybe that would help other people pursue what they want to do in life.
Absolutely.
And I'm not promoting everybody to go out there and become a professional fighter. You know, everyone has their own goals. You want to
100%.
get back to you want to go back to school.
It's not
go
over.
Pursue college, get sober. You could do it. You want to get your family back in your life. Get sober. You could do it. You want to mend your marriage. You know, regain your position in society. Get involved in the trades. Run as a politician. Anything.
Anything.
Get sober. You could do it. You know, and like
100%.
that's kind of been the message that I've tried to, you know, persuade since I started this career. And now it's like, this got so much farther than I ever thought it would.
Yeah.
It's like, how the hell do you stop now?
Yeah, no, you got to keep going. I'm tuned in, man. You can't stop. You can't. I mean, that's not even an option. You will be letting not only yourself but so many different people down. Like I said, I checked you out. You have a decent sized following of people who get motivated by your story, man.
You know what it is? It's like you don't
it's
want to
necessary.
look back at 40, 50 years old and say, what if?
Yeah.
Like that's a founded fear.
I was gonna ask you, do you have any fears? You don't sound like you fear much. If you're up on cranes, do you have any fears?
I do. Fear of failure, fear of relapse.
You fear relapsing. Wow.
I fear relapse. Yeah.
You
Because
get
if I
triggered
don't,
at all?
no, not so much anymore. But I know a lot of people that went out after 20, 25, 30 years of sobriety, never made it back. I mean, my father, one of them. And that's just a dime a dozen right there. You know, so I got to keep doing what I'm doing on a daily basis here for my mental health as well, you know, because tomorrow's never promised. You don't know what the fuck you're going to get into, you know? And there's a reason why they call things a perfect storm, because everything in my life just goes fucking wrong perfectly, right? Where picking up a drink or a drug just doesn't seem like a bad idea at that moment. So, you know, I always try and be aware and on guard for the unguarded moment. You know, so that's, you know, relapse is definitely a fear of mine. You know, not being the father that I know I could be one day is a big fear of mine. You know, those are founded fears that are just off the top of my head. You know, like not being able to deliver for my family.
That's huge.
You know?
That's huge.
I remember when I was out there getting high, I'm so quick to die for my family, right? Die for your kids, right?
100%.
I'd give an arm, I'd give a leg, hell, I'd give both. And then one day someone said to me, you know, Jim, you're so quick to die for your family. Why is the hardest thing for you to do is to live for them? I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
That's
and now
deep.
I sit here and I think about that, like, if I can't lead my family, that's a fear.
100%.
That's a fucking fear,
Yeah.
you know?
It's a lot of weight.
But the good thing about fears is if you can recognize them, can you do something about it? I absolutely fucking can.
100%.
And I do it.
Get your ass in the gym.
I take the actions necessary.
Yeah. Run that extra mile.
Always. You know, there's one thing I'll never cheat, and that's myself. You know, and in the fight game, you're going to find out real quick if you cheated yourself or not. You're going to feel it.
Box off.
You're going to feel it.
Wow.
You're going to feel it with cuts, lacerations, head trauma, broken teeth.
Yeah.
And the list goes on. You ain't fooling nobody but yourself in there.
Mentally, how do you go into a fight? I know certain people who they don't have nerves at all, and then I know some of the killers, some killers in that ring that have all the nerves in the world. They just know how to maintain it or shake it. What's your mental process going into a fight?
About fucking 5 minutes before I walk out to the cage, I'm always saying to myself, why the fuck do I keep doing this?
I ask myself that too.
Why do I keep doing this to myself?
It's nerve-wracking.
And one of my friends, Jerry, said to me, he's like, do you hear this crowd screaming your name? He says, Jim, you'd never be able to sit on the sidelines. And everything runs through your head all at once. And then you step into that cage, and everything that you thought about leading up to that moment is just out the fucking window. And now you're just running on pure instincts in there. You know, what are you thinking? I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
I'm feeling. You know?
Yeah.
It's like being in that cage is like being in the eye of the hurricane. Still.
It's just you and
calm.
him and the referee.
But then you look to your left and your right, and you got 120 mile an hour winds going around you. But in that eye of the hurricane, you can't hear nothing. You know? It's freaky. It's freaky. And then you're acting on pure instinct in there. You know, and you say to yourself, this is going one of two ways. I'm either walking out of here with my hand up or not. And you just leave it all in there, you know?
Yeah, that was a good answer. That I learned some things. 'Cause like I said, the mind game that's a big thing in a game. I've seen guys lose the fight on fight night, just nerves. It'll take your energy. It'll shut your whole energy, your nervous system down completely.
You'd be surprised how mental this game is.
Very
mental.
It's all mental.
You know, I can will myself in the gym. I could will myself to do those extra sprints. You know, and then I always get nervous, like, am I going to fucking shit the bed? Am I going to have that mental fog? And then people remind me, like my coaches, hey, Jim, it hasn't happened yet. You know, and I can only do my part in anything in life leading up to the event. You know, so before you walk out to that cage, did I do everything I can to prepare for this? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And at that point, you got to be at peace with what the outcome is.
Yeah.
You know, and that helps me get through it. I always do whatever I can leading up to that moment.
Who's some of your influences? Who's Jimmy tuned into nowadays? I know me. I don't just watch the fights. I watch a lot of the build-ups. I love the UFC Embedded show, the Countdown shows. I've been watching those shows for almost 20 years now.
You know, not someone that I entirely look up to, but I'm going to use this guy as an example. This guy, Carlos Prates, is in the UFC right now. And he was, at one point in his career, he was like 7-6.
Okay.
And then he got his Contender Series shot at 16-7.
Oh, wow.
And now I want to say he's the number 12th guy in the world.
What weight division?
170.
Okay.
So, you know, I fight at 170. Hell, maybe I fight that guy one day. But the point is, I bring that up is that, like, this guy was a 50-50 guy at one point.
It's never
wins,
over.
losses. And had to have been close to his 30s or something, maybe, you know, late 20s. But it was like, little did he know, like, his career was just getting started. This guy's a fucking superstar now.
Yeah.
You know, so I like people where the road isn't so easy.
You remind me of the Diaz brothers. You got
You
like
know?
they had it rough too. I heard their stories of Nick and Nate.
I don't like when things are so clean cut, easy. I like the people that gotta grind for things.
Yeah.
Where things didn't come easy. You know, I like hearing the stories of, you know, suicide attempts and depression and drug addiction and alcoholism or losses in their family. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Now you're looking at them, and people think like the UFC, like people have to understand something about the UFC. Since the UFC started, I don't know, how many fighters do you think have been in the UFC? Let's go on a high note.
Thousands.
All right, let's say 10,000 people,
Yeah.
right? Ever labeled as a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
How many fucking people are on this planet? 8 billion.
Yeah.
What is 8 billion divided by 10,000? So just to get to that point, you're dealing you are 0.0000 like to the 100th
Absolutely.
percent of human population. So just to get to the UFC, like, you know, you're 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. So
hard.
anybody that gets to that level, win or loss, 0-4 in your first contract, 4 for 4, all knockouts in your first, like, you have my admiration.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's a good fighter response.
You got dog in you to get to this point.
Yeah. One thing I would say about the combat industry is it's a very, it teaches you humanity, and you don't focus on record. Just to get in there, just to make it, we understand more how much goes into that process. That's
The discipline and consistency that comes with this sport is
weight
unmatched.
cuts, everything.
It's unmatched.
Yeah.
It's unmatched. I mean, you spend a lot of time alone as a fighter.
Yeah, it's lonely.
You know, I have a fight in March. You know where I'm at? February 22nd, February 18th, my birthday. I'm running sprints at Roosevelt. Fucking 17 degrees out.
You're Pisces.
You know, 9:30 at night because I just had apprenticeship school from 6 to 9. I have to work in 10 hours. I'm spending all this time on my own. You know, who the fuck is gonna be out there running sprints in 17-degree weather?
Yeah.
You know, so you spend a lot of time on your own. The discipline is unmatched. And then someone said to me one day, I was complaining about being alone. They were like, Jim, yeah, I get it. You're alone a lot. You walk up them stairs into that cage. Who's there with you? Nobody.
By yourself.
So get comfortable. If you want to pursue this sport, get comfortable being alone. Get comfortable doing the work that's not even a thought in someone's head.
Is your wife supportive of your
She's the
MMA
best
career?
support a man could ask
That
for.
could get rough, straining on a relationship with that level of dedication. People don't understand. To be great at something, it takes a lot of time.
One of the things I'm most grateful for is her, my coaches. I mean, there's been days where they believed in me more than I believed in myself.
You need that.
You know, and it's them pushing me some days. You know, and sometimes I do it for them, but my wife is a fucking diamond in the rough, man. I mean, she is so fucking supportive. She's very smart, first of all. She's very realistic. And she supports me like I've never seen before. I mean, I think of the most two powerful women in my life. It's my mother and my wife.
Absolutely.
You know,
Wow.
and she pushes me to go. She don't want me. She told me last year when I fought in March, she's like, Jim, listen, it's either now or never. You're either going to pursue this career or not. And at this point, you know, like I set us up well in life. We have our home and, you know, like we're safe.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, don't go back to ironworking, Jim. Pursue this. It's not even a year later, and we're knocking on the door here. So, like,
Which door are we talking about?
the next level, man.
Yeah.
You know, the next level. And it could come over a night's notice. You know, I have a feeling things are going to happen soon. And, you know, all we can do is show up in life. But if I didn't have her, like, I'm not going to say permission, but if I didn't have that blessing of, like, hey, Laura, listen, like, I'm going to fucking pursue this here, like, that woman works hard, man. She's a teacher in a middle school in Yonkers, bro. She wakes up 5:30, 5 o'clock every day, and where's
God
my
bless
ass?
her.
Sleeping in
Yonkers
the bed
too.
with the
Woo.
dogs, because all I do is train now.
Yeah.
You know, and she took on, you know, that role of being able to just, you know, go to work and, you know, not that she's paying all the bills. I would, you know, like, I tell this story a lot. Like, McGregor's wife was working 2 jobs to support his dream. I don't care how fucking good at the sport I am. I would never put that burden on my wife. I iron worked every fucking day for 8 years while fighting to afford what we have in our life, you know, before I stepped away. I would never do that to my wife. I think that's completely unfair. The house pays for itself. We have money saved up. And she said, Jim, you know, you got us to this point here financially. Like, it's time for you to pursue this.
Let's go.
And I put the belt down, man.
Yeah,
I fought in March. I fought in June. I fought in September. I would have fought in December, but the kid pulled out. And I just fought again, you know, about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw the video, man.
And now, yo, we're ready to go, man.
We're ready to go. What would you say is your strong suit? What area of MMA? I like your stand-up. Your stand-up is nice. I seen you do hook. You did a double hook, man. You train with a lot of boxers, I see, because people don't do the double left hook. That's not a common MMA. You throwing low kicks. And I was like, oh, switch kick you through? I said, oh, man.
You know what's worse than getting punched in the face?
You in K1 Glory?
You know what's worse than getting punched in the face? A fucking shin bone to the peroneal artery right above that kneecap.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
if you ask me what my favorite strong suit is, kicking that fucking leg is great.
Chopping it?
This shin bone cuts muscle.
Yeah.
It cuts muscle, man.
Oof, yeah,
you know? So I like the striking. For years, I trained wrestling defense, get back up, you know. Crocodile and the lion are fighting. Who's going to win?
Absolutely.
Well, it depends. Where are they fighting? Are they fighting on land? Are they fighting on water?
100%.
So, you know, I want to fight on land.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to the ground. So train to get up. Train to prevent it. Keep the fight where I want.
What about if you're on the ground, though? Can you handle yourself on the ground?
Absolutely handle myself. I fought D1 All-Americans. I fought, you know, wrestlers of all sorts, jiu-jitsu guys
Give
of
us
all
some
sorts.
What's the fighting accolades, achievements? What's sanctioned about? What's going on with Jimmy in the MMA world, man? What has Jimmy accomplished during his fighter career?
What's your
record,
I
first of
turned
all?
7-2,
Okay.
one no contest.
It's a good record.
You know, my losses are losses. I take them like a man. Should they have all been losses? No. But you know what? You learn from them. I tell you what, any loss I had, I didn't go down on my sword.
Yeah.
You know, I fucking fought to the very end.
You're a dog.
You know, this last fight was a no contest. This kid had a way out of the fight. He took it.
Yeah.
You know, I can't identify with quitting. That's something he's got to live with.
Absolutely.
But I tell you what, I did my part, and a lot of eyes saw that.
Yeah.
You know, I won the Ring of Combat title back in September. I fought an undefeated guy who was, you know, getting looked at heavily by the UFC.
Oof.
He was a good guy too on a personal level. You know, I'm not a guy that gets matched up with people and I hate their guts. That's not me. This is a business. You know what I mean? It's not personal. Everybody's out here trying to chase a dream. You know, I got no problem shaking your hand before we slug each other.
Yeah.
You know, he was a good guy, getting looked at, heavy on the radar, and you know, I took him down. He was a wrestler.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You know, so I won 3 amateur titles in MMA. I turned pro when I was 24 years old. I've been on some good win streaks. I had a pro kickboxing fight, and now, you know, I'm hoping to hear some Contender Series news.
Ooh, what kind of Contender Series? What's this Contender Series you speak of?
Contender Series, man. Dana White, Tuesday nights.
Ooh.
You fight at the Apex Center, the UFC Apex Center in Las Vegas. It's a very intimate crowd, small crowd. You fight in front of Mick Maynard, Sean Shelby, and Dana White against another prospect in the country or the world. And if you do enough to impress those gentlemen, you're going to get awarded a contract into the UFC.
That's your goal.
And that's the goal. That's the goal. Just to get to that point, you know, is surreal for me.
Yeah.
I was never supposed to get this far.
Yes, you was.
In the grand scheme of things, maybe I was, but I tell you what, if you asked me at 21 years old, do you see yourself knocking on this door? I would have said, you're out of your fucking mind.
I can see it now. UFC embedded right now. You getting in your car on your way with your gym bag, and you kicking this same story and motivating millions. Because one thing about Dana White, he is a supreme. I'm a fan of Dana. I've
one of
been
the most
watching
powerful men in the
Dana
world.
since I was a kid.
One of the most powerful men in the world.
100%. I've been knowing who Dana White was since 2001. And I was just like, wow, who the fuck is this? Who is this guy? You know, he used to box too. He wasn't bad. You know, he's up there in Boston, boy. He's got some nuts. He's actually getting into boxing promoting too. So I'm more of a bigger fan of him now. But I would love to see you get in front of Dana and see you guys have a conversation and work something out.
It's funny, you make plans, God laughs, right? I wanted one pro fight. I never thought I'd get this far, and here I am. I'm like, oh shit, how do I stop this now?
Yeah.
And I'm not. I'm training every day. This is my full-time job, you know, and I fight for more than just myself, man. I fight for all the underdogs in life. All the underdogs in life. And listen, I never get on a high horse because I know where I came from.
Absolutely.
I'm still exactly where I was 9 years ago. I'm still around the same people. I never let it get to my head. You know, I'm a man of the people.
And this just shows different types of traumas because naturally you think, Mom, Dad, we had money. There's no struggle there. There's different types of struggles. We put ourselves in a box and think certain dynamics mean there's no struggle and trauma, and it's just not true. So I love stories like yours because it gives us a wider look at, wow, he went through that. Like there's other things that go on in people's households outside of whatever we deem as our norm. That's why our situation is. It's called Nothing's Normal because I don't know how you grew up. I can't tell you what your norm should look like. That was shaped when you grew up, just like mine was shaped when I. So, yeah, that's amazing to hear. What's next? You got any fights lined up?
I got no fights lined up yet, but I'm hoping to hear some good news.
You still training?
I'm still training every day. I took a week off, man.
That's necessary.
It's so funny how fast you lose your cardio, man. I took a week off. I feel like I haven't fought in a year.
Yeah.
But I took a week off mentally. I needed it. I've been in fight camp for fucking 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm right back to it, man. I'm training. It's either now or never.
Absolutely,
you know,
man.
And you got one shot at this. And the thing about opportunities is you never know when they're going to pop up. Yeah. So you got to be ready to snatch it whenever it does.
I might have to get you to the gym, do some pad work, man. Sharpen. Your hands don't need sharpening, but, you know, just add the steel hands boxing. I have a business, steel hands boxing. Add a little steel hands boxing flavor to those low kicks, you know? Wow. Okay. Final words, man. The floor is yours. We love your story. Alex, shout out to you for lining this up. This won't be the last time. We're definitely going to keep in contact. We will be following you. Let us know when your fights are so we can come out and support. And I'm just looking forward to following your journey and even being a part of it. Man, you got a story that similar to ours, man, and I think we could do a lot together and inspire a lot, you know?
Thanks, Bang.
So, yeah, final words. The floor is yours. What do you want to leave with the world if nothing's normal?
Keep it really simple. Not that I had any time to think about this.
No, we don't prepare. It's not fight camp.
This whole conversation, however long it was, this isn't about blood sport. It's not about any of that. It's not about look at me. It's not about glory. You know, this story is about no matter how deep into the darkness of life you can go, there's always a way out. You put your mind to something, there's nothing in this world you cannot do. And it's not limited to fighting, and it's not limited for just drug addiction or alcoholism. It could be anything. It could be mental illness. It could be suicide ideation. It could be depression. It could be drugs or alcohol. It could be anything. Anything that brings you into that darkness of life. If you put your mind to it, you seek the help you need to get. There's nothing in this world you cannot do. And there's also no height that cannot be reached. Every time I thought I was getting to a point where I was like, wow, this is amazing, I got to that height and I realized, wow, there's still a lot more to do here and a lot more work needs to be done. So if I were to leave anything with that, it's, you know, as a final message, it's never give up hope, man. Never give up hope. And as long as you got hope in your life, anything's always possible.
Yeah. I do want to ask you one more thing. Nothing's normal. When you hear those two words, what comes to mind? What would be a nothing's normal definition?
Boring if it's normal.
Yeah.
If something's normal is boring, I don't want anything to do with it. That tastes shit tastes bland. You know, when I think of nothing's normal, I think of adversity. Nothing came easy. You know, I don't want easy things in life. If I got things easy, I'd chuck it away just as quick as I got it. I think so. Because how am I supposed to appreciate something if I get it like that? There's a difference between...
That could be to your... show how spectacular you are.
There's a difference between getting something and earning something. When I earn something, I feel like I appreciate it a lot more.
Yes.
So when nothing's normal, it means that there's some sort of adversity there, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're not talking about a weird fucking haircut here.
Yeah, to my life.
You know, we're talking about life.
Yeah. Death.
You know, and people have their stories out there.
Yeah.
Makes mine look like nothing, you know? I'm proud of my story.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I'm
I
not
am too.
unique. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people out there that have been through a lot worse than I have.
Yeah.
You know, and those stories need to be told because those stories give hope to others. Like we said before, our lessons, our struggles are lessons.
100%.
And those lessons need to be passed to other people that are struggling with those too. Because if they hear something that they never heard before, it might save their life.
Especially from their heroes. Like I said, with social media, we don't see often, you know, people don't, our vulnerable moments or moments of doubt or our weak moments, whatever you want to call it, life. When life starts lifing, they won't see that. They'll just see, you know, you holding that UFC strap and think that's where it started at. Your life started
Never judge
there.
a book by its cover, man.
Yeah.
Can never do that.
Yo, Jimmy, this was a pleasure. We got a lot of love and respect for you over here. I'm happy you came through, and like I said, we will be in contact, bro.
Thank you, Spank.
Yo.
And Alex, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're a real dude, man.
It's been a pleasure.
You're a solid guy, sturdy. I know how we talk. And yeah, this was a pleasure, man. Oh, tell Harley I said what up, man. I see
my buddy.
Harley Burke, we followed it. I seen that we was a mutual friend of mine. This kid I sparred a lot with. I got video of it. That kid's a hammer. He's probably got a fight coming up too.
All our roots in Yonkers, man.
Yeah, you Irish guys, man, ain't no fucking joke, man. Yo, nothing's normal. We signing out.